Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Lowry at Home. I'm your host, Naturalist Kirk. We've got a beautiful day out here today, and today our guest on the show is me. I'm going to be telling you about 10 tips for having bird feeders at your home, so I guess, Kirk, take it away. When it comes to getting a bird feeder, don't buy the very cheapest one you can. I know it's tempting, but you want something that's going to last and not end up in the landfill. You want these perch parts here to be made out of metal if possible, because this is where squirrels are going to try to chew on this and get at your feeder. You also want to look inside here and make sure that there's a screw inside there that you can unscrew, which comes very handy when it comes to my second tip. You want to be able to disassemble your feeders because you have to take them apart and clean them. If these perches here come out, it makes it much easier to clean your feeder. This one, now it looks kind of dirty up here at the top. A lot of that's just etching. This is a really old tube. Again, I've had this one for over 20 years. But this one probably is also due to be cleaned. As we all know, during coronavirus times, when people are in close proximity, disease can spread. The same thing can happen to birds. There's lots of diseases birds can get, and if you're attracting them to a common feeding spot like this, there's going to be disease that's going to be spread around, and you need to keep these feeders clean. It's part of the responsibility of feeding birds is that you have to clean those feeders about every 2 weeks, if not every 3 weeks, to make sure that they are clean and you're keeping your birds healthy. On to number 3. If you're only going to have just one feeder up, what I highly recommend are what I have in this bucket right here, black oil sunflower seeds. These are the absolute favorite food of the majority of birds out there. I know it's tempting to get one of those bags at the grocery store of mixed seeds. A lot of that isn't in there, it's just filler, and junk birds don't even want to eat. And so they're trying to get to these black oil sunflower seeds. They end up kicking all the other seeds out of the way just to get to those. They fall on the ground. A lot of them are just eaten by mice during the night. So you're wasting your money if you're buying the really cheap seed mixes. You want to buy something a little better, or just go, if you have one feeder, just go for the straight, all full of black oil sunflower seeds. I know you're saying, but Kirk, I want to attract a bunch of different kind of birds. If I only have just black oil sunflower seeds, am I only going to get a couple kinds of birds? Well, no, you'll get a lot of birds with those. But if you do want to attract as many birds as possible, you do want a bunch of different kinds of foods. So yes, you can buy a mixed seed variety, but it has to be a really high quality one. Or if you really want to make sure you're not wasting a lot of seeds, have different seeds in different kinds of feeders, and birds will learn which feeder to go to. So you got your black oil sunflowers in ones. You can get a thistle or a Niger feeder, so you can get things like goldfinches at a different feeder. You can even have a suet feeder out, so you get things like woodpeckers and nuthatches. And once you have all those up, you'll get a variety of different birds. But we need to talk about where you're going to put them. Okay, I just loaded up some suet into my suet feeder here, and I want to show you where all my feeders at my house are placed here. I've got them all in a row here, and if you look, they are very close to my windows. I want you to think about the rule of 3 here. Your feeder should either be within 3 feet of your windows or more than 30 feet away. A lot of birds end up hitting windows. As you can see, this reflection up here, they can see the sky and the trees up there, and they assume that they can fly right through that to that tree that they can see in the reflection. And if they hit that window, they could become injured very badly. So you want your feeders very close, within 3 feet of those windows, so if they do fly off in that direction, they're not going to build up enough speed to hit that window and get hurt. Similarly, you can put them 30 feet away, and then they're nowhere near your windows at all. But I like to see the birds. That's why I have a bird feeder, so I want to keep them here within 3 feet of my windows, and that's what you should do too. Let's talk about these real quick. This is a hummingbird feeder. Now, it's winter time now, essentially. There's no point in having this out. There are no hummingbirds here. But there's sort of a myth out there that you need to take these in early, otherwise the hummingbirds won't know to migrate. No, come on. They've been doing this a lot longer than we've had hummingbird feeders. They know what they're doing. They're migrating based on the amount of daylight that's out here. Leave your hummingbird feeder up as long as you can until it's freezing and you're getting your liquid and they're starting to freeze, because any late migrating hummingbirds could actually use this to help save their life. So don't take it in early. You're not going to mess up their migration. You could actually save their lives. But now that it's frozen out here, it's okay to take this inside. Now, I've got this post here that I'm hanging my bird feeders on. Squirrels can climb up this skinny metal pole. And one of the things I've seen people saying online is go ahead and put some Vaseline on there and make it slippery, and then squirrels can't climb up there. That's really dangerous, you guys. Please don't do that. That petroleum jelly, that Vaseline, if that gets onto the paws of those squirrels, they're going to get it all over their fur, and it's going to destroy the insulating properties of that fur. It could actually kill the squirrel. So please do not ever put any kind of grease on your poles. If it gets in the feathers of birds, it could also destroy the insulating properties of those feathers, and it could kill the birds. If you want to keep squirrels off your feeders, you have to buy a baffle, which is like a big sort of round cone or something that goes on the pole that makes it unclimbable. As you can see, I don't have one. The squirrels are kind of fun to watch. My dogs love standing at the window here and barking their heads off at the squirrels and having a job. So, you know, figure if you're going to feed the birds, you're going to feed the squirrels too. That's okay. The next tip is pretty simple, you guys. Keep your feeders full. You got to keep them full. I have people say to me, you know, I just don't get very many birds at my house. One of the things you have to do is keep in mind that you're making essentially a restaurant for birds to come to. What if every time you try to go to your favorite restaurant, they were out of food? Would you keep coming to that restaurant? No, you wouldn't. Your neighbors have feeders up as well. If your neighbor always has their feeder full and yours is only full once in a while, the birds will learn where the food is. You gotta keep the restaurant open, keep the feeders full at all times. One of the other things that attracts birds to your yards is not just food, but water. And I've got my bird bath right here, and it is frozen solid today, but that's okay. Even on some warmer days in the winter, the sun will hit this, it will warm up, and you'll get a little bit of water around the edges of the ice here, and birds will come and take a drink. And of course, in the summertime, they love this for taking a bath and getting some drinks too. So having water in your yard will attract more birds, absolutely. You can also buy a heater for a bird bath and have a heated bird bath. And no, don't worry, the birds won't, you know, freeze to death if they get their feet wet or something like that. They know what they're doing. You can have a heated bird bath in your yard in the winter, and birds greatly appreciate that, and it will attract more birds to your yard. My final tip has to do with bird feeding, but it has nothing to do with buying seeds at the store. It has to do with your yard. You know, you also have some control over what plants you put in your yard, having places where birds can perch that are near the feeders, having plants that insects like, flowering plants like I have down here on the ground that attracts a lot of insects that are going to bring in birds in the summertime that don't eat seeds. You can also have fruit-bearing trees and seed-bearing plants that are going to naturally attract more birds to your yard without you ever having to fill a feeder. So thinking about what sort of native plants are in your yard can also increase the birds you see and your enjoyment of the outdoors. I hope you've enjoyed these 10 tips to bird feeding, and thanks for sticking around. I'd like to thank our guest, me, today. It was a lot of fun to do a show here in my yard and have you guys see some stuff about feeders. Tell you what, we'll be back next week for more adventures here with Lowry at home. And be sure to check out our offerings at the Nature Center that are going to appear on the screen right after the show. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.